So here's another election update. What are they hearing now? Supreme. Hold on a second. There's going to be a legal court challenge on CNN. You can bring it up there, CrowderBits, so people can see it. Talking about, there's going to be a challenge on Obamacare. Again, that'll be perfect. People will have seen drug prices go down for the first time in modern American history, and their premiums actually stabilize at and they'll go, we're going back to the Obamacare era. Good luck. Again, that's assuming if Joe Biden were to actually get in. He's not. I'm not just saying it. I'm not just saying it. Let me present to you some more. We have some more election updates here. Michigan. So a Detroit poll watcher, there was a story we had on this last night, then it was updated. A Detroit poll watcher testified that at 4:30 a.m., right after we broke the stream, by the way, 15 minutes after, on November 4th, tens of thousands of ballots were delivered from out of state. And unlike the other ballots, these boxes were brought in from the rear of the room, is what she said.
Okay.
And this lady said, I specifically noticed every single ballot was for Joe Biden. Yeah. Then there was another poll watcher in Detroit who testified that the ballots didn't match the voter rolls and that they were still being counted. We have audio from that poll watcher. So there are two different poll watchers. Here's the second one.
So what many poll challengers were actually seeing was that when the ballots were scanned, and it did not match a voter in the electronic poll book, and it did not match a voter in the supplemental paper poll book, which was provided due to Michigan's law that allows for same-day registration. They were still allowing those ballots to go through and be counted, and that is when the GOP poll challengers were issuing those challenges. So they were either being ignored or kicked out.
All is well.
Wow.
Nothing to see here. Yeah. Speaking of which, hit the notification bell, by the way, if you're subscribed on the YouTube, because subscriptions don't mean a whole lot. Notifications, they just let you know when things go up on this main channel. It's weekdays at 10 a.m. We broadcast live.
Yeah.
We broadcast live, and more people watching than CNN. So that's kind of fun. So that's Michigan.
Yeah, and so, by the way, if they had brought a truckload of Donald Trump votes in to help swing the state of Michigan, we would be sounding the alarm just as loudly. There is no place for bringing in ballots for people out of state that don't
Never
count
happened.
in this election. Yeah, exactly. It didn't happen in any cases.
We
but
watched
we would
a
be saying the same
consistent
thing.
lead build all night for Donald Trump in these states, and a consistent and huge lead.
Yeah.
And then the graph went bloop, blip, blip, a complete change.
Yeah.
Like a little Mario hop.
Yeah.
A little Mario hop of fraud. So that's the thing. Yeah. And none of that happened with Donald Trump.
No.
Right. Yeah.
You can't find an instance of 128,000, which they thought was okay over there at Washington Post. Turns out it was a typo, but Washington Post at the time just said, no, that sounds about right. Yeah. You can't find a single example of all of a sudden unaccounted for coming in with no poll watchers, 15, 20, or 100,000 votes for Donald Trump, just happening in the dead of night. You can't find it.
Yeah. And Rand Paul tweeted about this, but he said that the government sent 1.1 million people COVID stimulus checks that were dead. Dead people. 1.1 million people who are dead got stimulus checks. You think how many of those people you think voted?
But how could they spend that money if they're dead? So Georgia, Kyle Becker, formerly I think he was at Fox News, pundit, the People's Pundit Project is where he works. He was reporting in Georgia that in Georgia, 132,000 change of address red flags in Fulton County. So in one county, these votes are highly likely and eligible to vote and have moved. They've moved their location per source, meaning they probably don't live there anymore. And Biden, of course, says that Georgia leads by 10,000 votes. This should be enough to be a game changer. Here's what's interesting. If you look at that tweet, can you bring it back up really quickly? Right there, it says this tweet is disputed, or what this claim about election fraud is disputed, says Twitter. By the way, they still haven't disputed. Did they dispute the New York Times and people saying, oh, no, actually Pfizer was not, Pfizer was never associated with Operation Warp Speed? That's something that you can verifiably prove to be false.
Right. Yeah.
This is a statement someone makes. Mike Pence, vice president, said didn't have to do with warp speed. It just takes a couple of fingers. Even if you have a guy with stubs, he can just speak and spell into his computer and find out that it's true. No. Dispute on Twitter, a dispute on this. So I thought, well, you know what? I know that Kyle, I've met Kyle Becker once or twice.
Oh, well, really?
I don't know him very well, but from what I understand, he's done some pretty good work. And I thought, well, you know what? He must be lying.
Oh.
Because Twitter
Otherwise,
says
Twitter,
so.
Twitter
they wouldn't
Why
do
would
that
Twitter
otherwise.
say so?
Yeah.
And so I decided it's a dispute, and then you click on that little link in dispute to read an article that fact checks it. And so again, remember, the fact check should be on 132,000 change of addresses in Georgia, because that's what he's claiming.
Yeah, you'd expect. Yeah.
So I clicked on the dispute, the fact check, and this is what it is. It just says, voter fraud of any kind is exceedingly rare in the U.S. I'll read you the whole thing. Election experts confirm. This is the fact check. With ballot counting continuing and the presidential race being called for Joe Biden, experts and officials say there has been no evidence of widespread voter fraud in the 2020 U.S. election. The election process is secure, and voter fraud of any type is incredibly rare, according to the Associated Press and Reuters. Remember, they did the fake flotilla to try and make it seem like the Israelis were stabbing Palestinians. They cropped the picture. Reuters.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my gosh.
Point is, they're pieces of shit. Officials and experts warn that the most interference in U.S. elections, whether from foreign or domestic players, comes in the form of misinformation campaigns, many of which are intended to create distrust in the United States electoral process. But here's the thing. I just read the entire fact check.
Right.
There's no page 2?
What about the 132,000 votes in Georgia? That's the claim.
Yeah.
Right.
A fact check is verifying that the fact that was claimed is false. You're checking the fact. This could have been written 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Election fraud is rare. I would agree. It's generally rare. That's why this is a story. That's why Kyle Becker is saying, hey, election fraud is and should be rare, but we have a discrepancy of 132,000 votes.
Yeah.
Something
That's
going
what
on.
we call, I know it burns for you to say, AP, news.
Yeah, it's like somebody reporting on the French Revolution and then somebody fact-checking and saying, French revolutions almost never happen.
It's true.
Right. Yeah.
Very rare. Very rare.
In the history of France, it's only happened one time.
One more fact check.
Yeah, and every single article, by the way, that you click on that has anything about voter fraud or irregularities or anything else is going to link to that story and say nothing to see here.
Yeah.
I just want an even playing field.
Yeah.
Look, when we've talked about Michigan, when we've talked about Pennsylvania, just today, when we've talked about Georgia, we've given you the number of votes in question. We've given you the precinct of where the poll workers have worked. We've given you the quotes from the CEO of Pfizer himself, along with clips from President Donald Trump and everyone who criticized him, along with the fact-checking articles. We have given you names, numbers, dates, precincts. It's sort of diluted just to say receipts. This is a whole lot more than receipts. This is a tax form. And they just say, no.
This is an audit.
No. Because they've been used to that for so long.
Yeah.
They've been the legacy media has been used to for so long just saying, no. Neil Cavuto just said, Kayleigh McEnany goes up, well, there is strong evidence of voting irregularities. No.
Yeah, exactly.
Cut her off. And then she
said it.
continues saying it. But they didn't account. Here's what they haven't accounted for. This is why I'm positive. I want to get to your point, Quarter Black. Why am I talking like Donald Trump? This is what they haven't accounted
Reading
for.
over.
No, they cut him off.
Yeah.
They didn't account for us,
Yeah.
meaning you.
Yeah.
More people watched this than Cavuto. More people watched this than CNN. More of you decided to be informed here because you know what? When you were watching our stream, you knew exactly what they were saying while they were saying it, and if it wasn't accurate, we gave you specifics. This is not specific. This is just, we dispute it. Okay, that's like saying a duel, and you slap with the glove, and the guy pulls out his sword, you're like, I didn't know we were going to fight. I just thought we said duel. No, we're about to have a duel. Dispute, okay? Parlay. All right, well, here's the king. Oh, shit, I hadn't thought this far. What were we about to say there, Quarter Black?
Well, McElhinney said it. She said, if you're not interested in investigating these fraud allegations, then you are inviting in fraud.
Right, exactly.
And that's why he cut her off, because she said, "Oh, they're inviting in fraud." That's what she said.
Yeah,
she
right. That's what
specifically
she's saying.
said it.
When it's like telling a kid that you're not going to watch them. It's like, hey, I'm leaving the
don't do
house.
that.
And by the way, if you have a kid who's really annoying, this is an easy trick. You just go, Daddy's magical gun of mystery that you're never supposed to touch is on the table, but I'm going to be gone for 2 hours. Then you walk away.
Right.
But the point is you're letting them know there's no eye on them as it relates to elections. None at all.
Yeah. Well, and these are very legitimate claims. A poll watcher not being allowed in and things like that. Dead people voting. I have watched, unfortunately, more hours of CNN since the election than I care to admit.
I'm sorry.
And I have not. No, you're not. It's because of you.
I know.
I blame you. I have not
More
heard.
CNN before you go.
Can I just go? There's no. I haven't seen them say, yes, that happened. Here's why, and here's why that's normal, legal, a total nothing to see kind of event.
Yeah.
And this person shouldn't have been there in the first place. He didn't have the right forms. These votes were supposed to be counted, but they weren't. None of that has happened. All it's been is this exact link. Voter fraud in the United States. That's the line everybody is saying. Voter fraud in the United States.
For crying out loud, CNN, you don't have an interest over the fact that they wallpapered all the windows at Joe Louis Arena?
Yeah.
Right.
And I know people say it wasn't Joe Louis Arena, but you get my point. The point is that doesn't even raise an eyebrow.
Like,
Where'd you go to journalism school?
Right. And the word they keep using is there's no evidence of widespread voter fraud.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
But
So that's not what we're talking about.
It can be targeted in areas where it would make a big difference, which would be Detroit.
Yeah.
Philadelphia. The places where we're saying it's happening.
And the Fox News headquarters, where they call Arizona to demoralize people before the polls.
Right.
You know how much
If you've
fraud
got
you
nothing
need?
to hide,
Yeah.
just investigate.
Yeah, exactly.
Go
Do you know how much you
investigate it.
need?
We got nothing to hide.
Here's another one. Georgia, an election official, Gabriel Sterling, he's been clear, by the way, and there's no interest in this from Neil Cavuto or anyone over there at CNN, that they're going to be investigating voter fraud. And he says that they will find dead people voting and people voting twice. This is an election official with a guy, a shopping mall Santa miming.
Now, let me be perfectly clear on another point.
Cool Santa.
We are going to find
that's hip
that
Santa
people
right there.
did illegally vote. That's going to happen. There are going to be double voters. There are going to be people who did not have the qualifications of a registered voter to vote in this state. That will be found.
That's first off, that the content is really important, but I know sign language. That's not what he was just telling everyone to buy Fisherman's Friend. That's a very misleading commercial.
Sneaky.
I care about the integrity of our election.
They get good fish sticks, though.
And our translators.
Yeah, I think there's
gotta be integrity.
a whole episode of Seinfeld about double voters.
Right. Yes. So now we go to
once and end
Pennsylvania. Again, we need to do an installment of each state because I know it's tough
Yeah,
to
for
follow
sure,
because
yeah.
we're talking
Yeah.
about news as it comes in, but there's so many examples in each individual state where you are way past the threshold of just saying, hey, we don't know. So in Pennsylvania, the Trump campaign, they filed a lawsuit claiming that there were different here's what it is. Different standards for voting in person versus voting by mail. In person, you have witnesses. In person, you have certain, I know people talk about Sharpie Gate. Again, the issue with Sharpies is that the instructions in Arizona that were sent out said do not use a Sharpie. Now, Sharpies may work.
Right, yeah.
Sure.
But why
Certain
is a poll worker handing you something when the information says don't use it?
Right, exactly.
It's almost like we were told not to vaccinate Brendan, but we said, we'll give it a shot.
Yeah. It was for science.
So the issue here is that there are different standards for voting in person. This is the lawsuit filed by the Trump campaign versus the mail-in voting where there were none of those standards and that it's unconstitutional. So in-person voters, they had to meet a lot of requirements that mail-in voters didn't. So this is from the Trump campaign, an official statement. It says, we believe this two-track system results in two constitutional violations. One, the Equal Protection Clause violation, and two, Elections and Electors Clauses violation. Again, because how can you have a standard? When you go in and vote, I don't know about you, they ask me for my ID.
Yeah, every time. Thank
Then
God.
they said, don't let anybody else touch your ballot. And then they said, that's what they tell you. Don't let anyone else touch your ballot.
I'm a very private person. So
I could have sworn there was a joke coming after that.
No, there's no joke. Why would you assume a joke?
I mean, I'm just saying.
This is a news program.
Come on.
Oh, wait, hold on. CNN right now.
with your
Trump
dirty
refuses
mind.
to concede amid unfounded claims of voter fraud. Says
Unfounded.
John King in a white background.
Unfounded, yes.
Every time, why do they keep putting on this?
It's like putting a guy in a
Capitol
green
over.
screen suit in a swamp.
Any result they can prove is fraudulent. But 1 week after Election Day, they have offered no proof. Not in Pennsylvania.
Oh, geez.
Not in Georgia.
What are you talking
not
about?
Not in any place on the map that shows Joe Biden. is
132,000 in
America's
Georgia,
president-elect.
sir.
76 million.
We have
Americans
affidavits,
voted for Biden.
sworn affidavits.
We have here personally hundreds of dead voters.
Yeah.
Just here, just us doing our own investigation in Michigan and Pennsylvania. Hundreds of dead voters. 6,000 vote switch, glitches, people who didn't win, who then all of a sudden were winning, poll workers not being allowed in. Tens of thousands of votes that absolutely came in after the deadline. This is just what they do.
Yeah.
No proof. Well, hold on a second. Did you run all of McEnany's press conference? Did you? Yeah. It's just, this is my problem with Fox News. It's just like CNN. No evidence. They're all just going out with this message.
Yeah.
And like I said, 128,000 votes found overnight for Biden, right in Michigan. This is what happened. It turned out to be a typo. Whatever that guy's name was at Washington Post. I always forget his name.
Philip Bump.
Philip Bump, in direct messaging that had taken place, said, well, it's a Biden county. There is no level of voter fraud that they would investigate.
Right.
When it was 128,000 that couldn't be physically possible, and they later fixed because it was a typo, Washington Post said, No tomfoolery here.
Yeah.
And that's why right now they're saying no evidence.
Yeah.
There is absolutely evidence of voting irregularities, and I will say it now. I don't care if I get banned. Outright fraud in some instances.
Yeah.
Now, the fraud may only be a few thousand, granted. The irregularities, hundreds of thousands, absolutely, if not millions. There is absolutely evidence. You just make sure that people don't see. Because if we provide the evidence, if we say, hey, here's a list of several thousand dead people voting, including a 170-year-old from a county in Pennsylvania, you say this is disputed, and you run us to the AP dispute that just says election fraud is rare. We agree it's rare. That's why it pisses us off so much.
Right, exactly. And by the way, irregularities mean states not following their own laws.
Right.
States circumventing their own laws to allow votes to come in past deadlines. And that's one of the cases that she made if Cavuto had listened for 30 more seconds, right? That the Supreme Court said, no, the legislature can't decide this, which is where the power resides. We're going to decide the votes can come in. And you don't have to show ID. You don't have to have a signature. It doesn't even have to have a postmark on it. If you find a ballot on the floor, count it.
Right.
That's exactly what the rules say.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, CNN, if you want some credibility, what you do is you present your opponent's strongest argument, and then you show why it's wrong.
This is why when people say, this defeatism that comes from what I hate is this bar that is set that conservatives set for themselves when they expect none from the left. Like, for some reason, there are conservatives now saying, well, good luck proving in the courts. Listen, there is so much evidence right now. It is so overwhelming. For you to set a bar, meaning it has to be outright every single vote for Biden is fraud, for people to keep up the fight, I'm sorry. You're not on this team. And like I said, it very well may be possible that we look into these hundreds of thousands of voting irregularities and anomalies, and maybe Joe Biden does win. When that's the case, fine. But we haven't. And we have never had these kinds of irregularities. Let me give you some examples of what we've never had. And we've gone through these several times. I've just gone through some here. But let's not go through the numbers because it's hundreds of thousands. What have we never had before? Unrequested mail-in ballots. That's never happened before. So that's a problem. What have we never had before? This level of acceptance of mail-in ballots. 30 times the rate. We've never had that before. What have we never had before? Ballots that only voted for Joe Biden and left the rest blank. We've never had that before. What have we never had before? People calling states before all the votes were in and military ballots not coming in time. We've never had that before. What have we never had before? Poll watchers not being allowed to watch, not being allowed entry. That's never happened before. What have we never happened before? People plastering the voting precincts with Bristol boards and paper so that people could not look in. That's never happened before. You know what else has never happened before? When a press secretary whose job it is to inform the press as to all these anomalies that are taking place, you cut it off before she can list them. None of those things have ever happened before.
Right.
Also dead people, but that has happened before because the Democratic Party exists. But not to this level. When you add all of those up, those things have never happened before in any other election. Hundreds of thousands.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, also, I even forgot the biggest one. One's coming in after the election deadline.
Yeah.
Coming in after 8 p.m. Not only that, but then being tossed in with the others so you can't track them.
Yeah.
None of those things. What else have we never had happen before, too? A computer software glitch. 6,000 votes. I don't know that we've ever had happen before. A digital software glitch that had a Republican losing and then flipped and he won. None of these things have happened before.
Watch Good Morning Mug Club live every Monday through Thursday at 10:15 Eastern.